The problem with designing something new is you don't know if you're done because no one's ever tried it yet. I think most creatives can relate to this. At some point you have to cut yourself off and go like, nope, that's good enough. Or, somebody else comes in with a deadline and says, hey, whatever, you gotta give what you got right now. And you gotta do it. Or, a stupid quote, what's his face was like, I made 99 ways to not make a light bulb. I feel like I have learned a dozen ways to not make my game. I've made some things that work, they're fine, they're okay, and like they could be fun on their own and stuff, but for what I'm trying to do, they don't really fit. Any aspiring designers out there, I'm gonna give you some advice and show you how I've been applying it and what I've done along the way. So this is like half advice column, half devlog thing. So, yeah. Hi, my name's Kieran. I'm making a video game about card games. Think Persona, Pokemon, but instead of fighting with monsters, you fight with cards. That comes with a lot of very specific caveats that I don't think a lot of other games have to focus on as heavily, but I'll get to that in a sec. First, I want to talk to you about the creative process and what I'm striving for. Now, when you're making something, you typically have some kind of foggy experience or idea in mind. You have some vision, some kind of thing that you want to bring into the world. I can see my experience vividly, but the specifics are really nebulous. That's okay, because that's what game design is all about. That's fine. I'm keeping all that in. When people play games, they have an experience. It is this experience that the designer cares about. Without the experience, the game is worthless. This is from Schell's Art of Game Design, Book of Lenses. Really good companion if you're working on making a game. But that idea right there, that a game is worthless unless it conveys a specific experience, is something I was already feeling well before I was reading that, or even starting to make games anyway. The way I looked at creative works is that they want to make you feel something. Any art really is looking to evoke some kind of emotion. If it doesn't do anything, that's the only time it gets bad, in my opinion. If it just bores me, if it doesn't do anything, then it's bad. But if you get something out of me, then you're doing something right. It might not be what I'm looking for necessarily. I might not be looking for that exact experience you're trying to get out of me, but you're doing something. And that might sound a little crazy to people that aren't too familiar with this kind of thinking, or specifically like the way it works in games. Like, how could you write off games entirely? Like, certainly the way Mario jumps has to matter. And yes, it does, but this is something that a lot of game designers think about, and some that you might even look up to. We are game creators, so we make these games and we share them with these people on the other side. Players will play these games and hopefully feel something, an emotion. I design games and write stories, but my goal is to cause an emotional stir inside the player's brain. So the fundamental goal isn't inside the game, sitting in the middle, it's the event that occurs inside the player's brain. This is the goal that we must consider most important. That is from Yoko Taro's GDC talk, Making Weird Games for Weird People. I'll have the links to this stuff in the description. Highly recommend checking it out. Game developers want you to feel something. They're looking to make you feel a certain way. The good ones, at least. So I've got my experience in mind. I want these people who thought the Yu-Gi-Oh anime or manga was amazing, but they thought that the card game was a little too complicated or bad. There were some incredible emotional arcs and stories that came from that, and it all had this weird veneer of ridiculousness because they're playing a card game. Like, if they're playing a card game, certainly they have to realize how goofy this is. And I think on some level they do. And that's part of its charm. That's part of why it's good. You can give something as silly as a card game a lot of stakes or meaning, and suddenly now it really matters. And so now people are engrossed in something that they usually would find so childish. They would be captivated by this thing and by the rules and the game going on, and just the gameplay of it now became part of the story, and that's what I'm trying to do here. And when you're a kid, a lot can ride on these games too. You see these characters and you want to emulate them, you want to be them, you want to be as cool as they are. And I want you to be one of them in this, and I want you to interact with these people in this crazy world. Ultimately, it's a story about reconnecting with friends, but I want there to be a lot of card game antics along the way. Is a card game necessary for this story? Yes. I'm gonna say yes. At first, I wrote in here that maybe not, but honestly, the more I think about it, it's like the way the story functions is a lot about control, lack of control, fate, and just, trying to manipulate the odds for things you can't really control and stuff like that. I think the card game is actually really thematically fits with the kind of story I'm trying to tell, so yes, I think a card game is necessary. I see the player who feels the exact emotion that I'm trying to get out of them, and I think I know how I'm gonna get it, especially like with the ending. I know like what I'm gonna do for the ending, and I can work backwards. Like Yoko Taro's talk, he talks a lot about photo thinking and like imagining the player who is having this feeling that you want them to have and working backwards from there. How can you get them invested enough to have that emotional moment, to have that emotional payoff? If you want them to have this experience, you need to build up these things for them to feel it. Like a character dying is only gonna evoke any kind of sadness if you had any kind of investment in that character in the first place. If you actually cared about the character to when what happened to them might be tragic, that's the only way I'm gonna get the experience out of you. So I have to find out what steps I need to take to get you invested. And the card game one's a pretty big hurdle, because a lot of these emotional moments revolve around another game entirely. So there's this card game that's kind of like the hub of everything, and then around it is this other game that has a story, and these stories are being told with like the card game as kind of the glue that sticks these people together. So for that to work, there needs to be a lot of like micro emotions and a lot of emotional buildup, a lot of investment early into what's going to pay off later. And that means you need to get people in, and you need to get people to care, and you need to get them to care fast. I hope that now you can understand how stupid I am for trying to do something like this as my first project. Don't do this. This is a bad idea. But there's honestly very few games out there that do what I'm trying to do that aren't just blatant commercials. And I want this experience for myself. I personally am making this game because I want to play it. I want to have something like this because it's really hard to get, to get a bunch of people that play the same card game, that all view it the same way you do, and that want the same kind of thing out of a card game that you want. Because if I'm honest right now, almost nothing in the market really appeals to what I'm looking for out of it. The things that I want, they kind of died before 2010. So from here, I'm pretty dead set on making a card game, okay? This was back in, this was back in like 2018. I really wanted to do this. I tried out like a little Mega Man Battle Network thing to like, maybe I could use card game as metaphor, and that really wasn't evoking what I wanted it to. Like that might still kind of work, but it's not doing exactly what I needed to. So I wanted to have a card game, and I love card games, so I started researching every single one I could find. The Inuyasha's over there. I'm looking just off the top of my head. Light Seekers is over here. The Beyblade, I mentioned the Beyblade one. Fucking Luck and Logic, everything. If it involves cards that come from a deck, I guarantee I've studied it, researched it, or I've played it. I've looked at everything. If you haven't seen the extensive list, you can check the last video, and I've been looking at new stuff that's coming out. So I started to look at these with a critical lens now, not just like what made me excited as a player, but what elements are they using that is making this work? What is working, what isn't working, what situations suck, what isn't going to work exactly for the thing I'm trying to do. Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, Pokemon, Duel Masters, Dragon Ball, Vanguard, Buddy Fight. These were the cream of the crop, I think. These were the ones that rose to the top for me that I think, obviously there's the big three that everybody knows. We'll have some stuff of that there. But there's a lot that is kind of getting kind of got swept away over time. Like might have been too niche, might have never had a chance to catch on because its property wasn't big enough. And I had to look so extensively at these games because analog games are in a very tricky spot. You can't just, mess with the movement controller. Like you can't just code it and go, okay, you're gonna hit the jump button and we're gonna add a force to you, and then, oh, that force doesn't feel right, let's dial it down like, 0.8. Oh, now we apply 2.1 to your jumping force, and then when you're in the air, you let go of the A button and we start increasing it and blah, blah, blah. This gun feels bad, let's change these numbers, da 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 da. You don't have that granularity with a card game. With an analog game, this is the smallest unit that you have to mess with. This right here. So one of these is 2 of this. 3 of these is 3 of this. It gets very hard to design things in so many different ways when a card is your central piece. A lot of games make the cards very complicated to get it granular. So they go, okay, each one of these cards is going to have 7 things on it. And so we can adjust all these little 7 knobs and bells and whistles on this card to make it do different things. But at the end of the day, it is still one game piece. But I knew I couldn't make these too complicated because it's going to drive people away. So if I want to make this work, I need to keep a lot of this simple. I need to keep it easy. So that's the first part of my design goal. I'm going to have 3 bullet points at the end of this, and I want you to, as you're looking at maybe a game that you're working on or some project that you're trying to figure out, keep this in mind as well as maybe you're trying to work on your own thing. What is your design goal that you're trying to do, and what problem are you trying to solve? So for my case, I need this to be easy because I need people to get in, and they need to get in fast. And the way you get people in is to get over the learning curve. The barrier to entry has to be very, very low if I'm going to keep people, or if I'm going to ever attract people. First part of my design goal, this game has to be easy. It needs to be easily understood at a glance. It needs to be easily parsed just from a top-down look. It needs to be that newcomers can look at a card and kind of figure out the way things work just by looking at it, and are able to deck build. Like, deck building is a thing not a lot of people do. So you gotta keep the components kind of simple if you want to have any chance of getting people involved in this kind of thing. Let's backtrack to the pitch. Remember I talked about this being like Persona, Pokemon, but you play a card game. And I bring up Pokemon and Persona because I think they're the most popular examples of exactly what I'm looking for. And according to surveys I've run, they're also very popular with people who not only follow me, but are part of my target demographic. So that works. So I think something along those lines is not only a safe bet, but it's what I'm looking for. People are looking for more stuff like that. Let's go for it. So now I had to look more at card games and how I could make card games fit into RPG. How can I make card and RPG shake hands as best they can? So before we can get into that, let's talk about what makes Pokemon and Persona work. Now, both of these games feature an expandable roster that starts small and gets bigger as you go on. The game grows in complexity as you play it, and it also has an overworld where the story bits happen. It also has a battle screen where the battles happen. And we're gonna have something like the overworld, but I wanna focus on the battle screen really quick. So you're walking around in Pokemon when that happens. And so then it transitions from overworld to battle screen, and then you're fighting these trainer battles. These trainer battles are designed to kind of be like a little micro challenge. They're meant to bolster your confidence. They're meant to make you feel good. You're always at an advantage when you come into these. Usually at an advantage if you're playing the game properly. If you have just kind of gone through everything, you'll be at the right level for a lot of these. Sometimes even like way over all of them. So as you're going through these, you're learning the basic mechanics of the game, you're trouncing these trainers, and after you're done fighting them, you get some kind of experience, which you'll use to increase the power of your Pokemon, which will help you fight the more powerful challenges and trainers that await you later on. So just by being an RPG, it has a natural progression curve, and it gives you little points to make it so that you automatically get up to where it needs you to be. Usually harder in these games mean bigger numby. And when bigger numby get bigger, monkey brain go, yes, me likey. Me likey big numby go bigger, me likey big boom boom numby. Me likey big numby. Big boom boom numby. I want numby flashing lights boom boomy. So typically there's some way to grind, there's some way to get better as well, so I've been thinking that maybe these cards can level up along with you. They're probably going to have something like that, which means that by leveling up, they shouldn't be able to just completely break everything, so maybe having different stats that you can pour stuff into, or along the way, maybe they can kind of go up slightly so it's not breaking the bank when they get a little stronger. But they will if you need them to. If you can't get enough cards, maybe you could level them up a certain amount of times. Something we could maybe do. But there's really two things to glean from these battles. One, they're easy. And hey, that fits our design goal already. Look at this fight with youngster Ben. Okay, you get in a fight with him, and then as it's rolling, we're getting to go in, and then you get to sit there pondering why he comes up to you saying, hi, I like shorts, but really what gameplay do you have to do here? What all do you have to do in Pokemon? You just get to sit there and mash A. I mean, yeah, you could maybe have a few minor decisions on, oh, my move is over here, so I need to move it. But, you know, you can always move your move so that the one you want to mash the most is right there. So you can just sit there and mash A. And you're just sitting here wondering why he came up to you saying he likes shorts. This takes no brain power to do this. And they're winning. They're technically kind of even levels, but you're destroying him because that's just how the game is balanced. That's how it works. And also, not only are they incredibly easy, and they are, like I said, designed to allow you to progress faster, they're also incredibly fast. They're very short. These battles with trainers don't go longer than like 2 minutes. I've been sitting here and letting this battle play right now. Charmander's over here gonna use Ember, and then we're gonna have a back and forth for a second, but just sit here thinking about playing a card game. and all the choices you're making. Choices, he's getting a mash A, another choice is coming up, and then he does a thing. You could maybe use an item here, some other thing if you want to. Hey, I guess you could use Metal Claw, but would it make a difference? I could just sit there and use Ember if I wanted to. And so now when it's over, and we get our little dingy-do points, and all the animations have played, how long do you think that was? 2 minutes? No. That was only 1.5 minutes for a normal encounter. But this isn't just early Pokemon stuff. We can jump ahead and see now we are now like 12 hours ahead of this other one. And here we go, another fight, starting at 13:07:07. And I'll spare you the fight details. Doing nothing but, you know, he changed to Charizard just to get some more stuff in there because, you know, level him up. But where did it end? The defeated thing came up at 13:08:21, okay? So that's faster than the Youngster Ben fight. And this is 12 hours later. This is how they're designed. This is what they're supposed to do. So that's Pokemon. That's just how casual JRPGs are. But what about something more intense? What about something like Persona? Certainly, more hardcore game like Persona would have a bigger learning curve, wouldn't it? It's got to throw all this stuff at you. You got weaknesses. You got fusion. You got all this crazy stuff. No. Let's jump to Persona, another million game seller. Okay, we have an ambush battle, which theoretically should be the longest an early game battle takes, aside from a boss fight. The enemy gets to attack first, you're at a disadvantage, should be a little scary. Maybe you want to do a little more than mash A. You don't have to. You can still mash A here. The player can still just mash A and most things will be fine. Your teammate who you're not even controlling is getting to do other things. What decision are you making? You just want to get through the battle, right? Because you want to get your little progression points. So then, as we're going forward, you know, maybe instead of mashing A all the time, maybe we could do something else. Okay, yeah, let's pull up our Persona menu, because instead of just mashing A, I could pull out my Persona and do even more damage. Now the player is learning on their own, with very low stakes, what they can do to win. Okay, yeah, let's try the other one. I tried that one, let's try the other one, see how that works. Hey, that worked too, and that was way more damage than my normal attack. How long did that take? 2:21:26, and our initial thing came in at 2:20:36. So that fight took 50 seconds, but it was an ambush battle. So theoretically one of the longer ones that it should take, and this is like in the first, just a little over 2 hours into the game, this is how long a battle is. And this is how you get people invested in these kinds of things. Because yes, you're going to have the big boss battles that everybody remembers, but I don't think a lot of people commit to memory the tiny battles. Even in Kingdom Hearts and other things, battles with little rando Heartless with an action game, they're sometimes even shorter than that. Like, if you want to have these people invested, you need a really tight gameplay loop. And a lot of card games typically have like games that are going for upwards of 20 minutes. You can't do that here. If you want to at least have these people involved, you can't just say, hey, here's your first battle. Like a lot of these Yu-Gi-Oh games, like a lot of the ones that are more based on the rule set of like how Yu-Gi-Oh is actually played, yes, they're fine just to be a little battle simulator, but for just a random person who doesn't know anything about the game, might not even care too much about it, and they get in their first duel with a dude, and you're having to play an entire game or even a half game, that's still upwards of like 6 minutes. Even the Pokemon TCG Game Boy game, that's another like common example of like this kind of game that I'm making. Those ones are up to like 6-8 minutes for a fight, and that might work, but that's going to keep this very niche, and I want to make this appeal to a kind of a bigger crowd. You might be thinking this is a stupid thing to care about, but honestly, being easy and being fast, personally one of my favorite attributes of any game, is what we're looking for already with our card game. So we're already on the way to success if we just make the card game stuff fit this criteria as well. I think we can do it. So to get someone to play something, you need to keep them invested. You need to get them in the door. And a good way to keep them invested is with a bunch of micro wins to fuel their motivation. Considering this is single player as well, and there's no like multiplayer component, that's something we can absolutely do. We can have a bunch of cheapo fights that you don't even have to worry about. Just go destroy them, it's fine. Because if your player doesn't get hooked, they're gone. There's so many things they could be doing, and if they spent the time to try out your game and it doesn't get them soon, they're gone. You gotta make the early stuff feel good, and it has to feel good to just play. Obviously, not every game adopts this trend. I'm not chiding Souls or any game that wants to appeal to the hard audience, because that audience is there, and people are around who want to see that happen. They might not be able to play it themselves, but they love watching it, and they want to try it, and, see if they can do it. They might not be able to beat it, but it's fine. They know what they're signing up for with this kind of thing. But that's not the experience I want. That is the experience in the head of the Souls designers, They said they want you to feel a certain way, and that certain way can only be designed by being hard as nails. That's not what I'm looking for. I don't need you to be punished that extensively to feel what I'm trying to make you feel. There are going to be harder parts later on that I'd like to make you at least engage with the card mechanics more to understand how it works, because I think you'll have more fun if you do engage them, but you gotta pull them in if you want to have them along. And that brings me to the final design bit, which is honestly the most important one. Is the game fun? You know what actually keeps players coming back more than bells and whistles and gambling and loot boxes and your gotcha stuff? Fun. Is the game fun?
If it's not fun, why bother?
Thanks, Reggie. This isn't just some dank meme, and I think it's perfect that an industry professional said it, and some people might have been like, whoa there, I can't believe Reggie just said that. He's like throwing shots at everybody. No, he's not. He's just saying what every game design studio is thinking behind closed doors. People might just, might not realize it, that is what they're thinking. If what we're working on isn't fun, why are we making it? Every studio thinks that what they're making is fun to some degree or they wouldn't be doing it.
Money, 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 money.
Well, I guess there's that reason, but Thankfully, this is something the JRPG loop bakes in. We already talked about how you have your little monkey boom boom damage brain. Love seeing it when the numbies pop up and the numbies get bigger, and I like hitting button and my numby go boom boom. We already have that with JRPG stuff. That's why you're seeing that kind of grafted onto every other genre now, because a great way to keep the player invested is with letting them feel some sense of accomplishment and to let them feel like they're rising to these challenges that they're trying to do. And if you want to increase the difficulty along with them, this is kind of like the perfect median to get the flow state stuff, you want to have the challenge equal their skill, and if their skill is lacking, you can up their skill artificially by making their numbers get bigger. God mode feels fun for all of 10 minutes, and then you kind of want to do something else. Humans are keen problem solvers, and I think people want to solve problems and challenges and look for patterns and things more often than they want to admit. Yes, there's something fun to the power fantasy, but the power fantasy only lasts for as long as it, your mileage may vary for certain people. I loved Saints Row 3 personally because it actually felt like the world was meeting me at the right cap. But in Saints Row 4, just where I could just kind of do whatever I wanted, I wasn't nearly as invested. So we have everything backing up our design philosophy, something fast, easy, and fun. I think we can do that. Let's pull this all the way back to the card game stuff and talk about what I've been working on for the past 2 years, and frankly why this has taken so darn long. Future Kieran here. I decided to make the next part another video, so click the little dibbly-doo if you want to see the next part where I talk about all my designs that I've done over the past 2 years and break them down, see if they fit my design goals. See you over there. If you're crazy. It's like an hour and a half.